Thank you very much, Dr. Bashir, for that erudite presentation. I'm sorry that the audio at one point had failed us, but I think we got most of what you have said. The next presenter I would like to introduce is Haja Aisha Dukku. Honorable Aisha Jibril Dukku, Gimbiar Dukku, is a Nigerian educationist and politician from Gombe State. She served as Federal Minister of State for Education during the presidency of the late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. Since then, she served as a parliamentarian in the Nigerian National Assembly. She is currently an honorable member of the Nigerian House of Representatives, representing Dukku and Nafada Federal Constituency in Gombe State. With these brief remarks, may I please introduce Haja Aisha to give us her presentation.
Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Chairman. My respect to my royal fathers, the Emir of Gombe and the Emir of Duse, and the co-panelists. I want to start by talking about the international and national concerns. Internationally, the issue of the Almajiri system has been of utmost concern too. Right from the time we were in the cabinet, I remember in 2008, UNESCO felt that we could not achieve the Millennium Development Goals. Nigeria and other 8 countries, making 9 countries. And these countries, UNESCO grouped us and called us the E9 countries. And it was discovered by UNESCO through that these countries had one peculiar thing. They had large populations and they practiced one form of Zangaya of education. These countries included such countries like Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, Indonesia, and the rest. And so they grouped us and brought us together, taught these countries. We also that the Indonesian model of the madrasa system was, was very good. And we were brought back to Indonesia again for another training to adopt the model. And these countries, we adopted best practices from these countries and came up with a model in Indonesia. This model was what we came back with, and it was taken to the Federal Executive Council, which was adopted, and we went into implementation. That was what saw the, the emergence of Professor Shehu Galadenti as the chairman of the technical committee. Now, this went on shortly for a short period of time because immediately we started the implementation. The late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. And of course, this was adopted by the Goodluck Jonathan administration, but with a lot of modifications. And what we proposed earlier was almost jettisoned, only some few aspects of it was taken. That is on the part of the government. And that was what saw the building of these Almajiri schools that were left, and were not accepted by the Alaramas. Of course, this was one aspect that was neglected. I want to now come back to my present function as a legislator. I have looked at the Constitution and I have seen that the Constitution has given the Nigerian child, the right place in terms of education. Education being on the concurrent list, is basic education especially is the responsibility of states and local government. However, the federal government has done her part, under the UBE law. We have seen that the federal government is to give contribution of 2% of her consolidated revenue fund for basic education. And that it does through the Universal Basic Education Commission. And in the law, specifically under Section 16 of the UBE law, the definition of basic education in the law specifically mentions Almajiranci, and specifically also mentions street children, and also mentions disabled children, disabled group. So if the law specifically differentiates between these aspects, why is it that an Almajiri child is seen as a street child? Why is it that, you know, an Almajiri child is seen as a beggar? So we need to actually look at the law and then implement the law to the latter to even solve the problem. We can do it because the funds are available. UBEC has the funds. Now, there is 110 billion naira line CBN unassessed by governors, and this is supposed to be part of the funds for the Almajiri. So as it is today, where is, you know, a state universal basic education board that has set up, you know, a department for the Almajiri child? Where? Not here. So I want to just to conclusion to my recommendations. I want to make certain things clear first and foremost, that the Almajiri is a product of a morally decadent society. You know, we are products of, you know, our society. The Almajiri child is not different from the society. The society is morally bankrupt, and so it has to show. And unfortunately, the Almajiri is, you know, the one suffering for it. And I also want to say one fact, that the government schools now presently cannot accommodate the number of the Almajiri system, the Almajiri children. So taking these children back to these schools is not a solution. This is a fact. If you see somebody that tells you he's going to give you the dress, a dress, you have to look at, you know, the dress he's wearing. So we now see these schools, these public schools, are nothing to write home about. They are in classes of over 200 pupils, and the teachers, I'm sorry to say, they cannot speak one sentence, you know, of English, talk less of teaching the children. So there's a big problem, and so we should not add to the problem. We should look at the Almajiri system of education on its own and on its own merit. And let me say that as bad as the Almajiri schools are, they are producing, you know, they are giving positive, you know, results. If you ask any Almajiri child, the child will tell you that he is coming from so Malam and he was taken to so Malam. And if you ask any Almajiri child to recite his slate, that child will recite the slate. So, and then this system is producing our imams, is producing our teachers, our Quranic teachers. Most of the teachers, especially in private, in homes, are products of this. So I see a system that is very productive, but of course has its own challenges. As I said, they have the serious challenge in the system, which we can take care of. So going to my recommendation, I have, you know, divided the recommendation into three. I have short term, medium term, and I have long term. In the short term, I want to advocate for a conference. Dr. Bugaji called a summit. I want to call it a conference of key players first. You know, opportunity to voice out their views. The key players are the alarmers, the proprietors, the researchers, and the concerned citizens, just to give them a voice, especially the alarmers and the proprietors, and also to appreciate them for their contribution in training imams, present the challenges to them as it is today, especially. Then second, you know, suggestion is the issue of data. Dr. Bashir Galadench, of course, is our bank and his team. We know we can get something, but for now, we can even use the data in UBEC. They have a lot of data in the Department of Special Education. We can use the data. Then three, we have to provide welfare for both the Malams and the Almajiri. Then four, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development should provide feeding for all the Almajiri schools, because it is providing feeding for those in primary schools. Even now that they are at home, the money is given to their parents. So why not the Almajiri child? And also, we have to provide healthcare for them. I want to emphasize the issue of healthcare because they are sick and emaciated because of lack of feeding. And then we have to be accountable. The need for accountability cannot be overemphasized. We should hold we can do it. We can transform the Almajiri system of education that is serving the purpose for its, for what, it has been established for. And we can go back and create the board of trustees, handing over to our emirs that have been the legislators, have been the executive, and have been, the judiciary, even before the colonial masters. I thank you for the opportunity.